Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services, Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by Coconino baseball coach Michael Sifling. He'll join the show to speak about his coaching origins, his plans for his first season as head coach, and how he approaches the pitching staff. We'll then be joined by Northland Prep Academy boys soccer coach Eric Carrillo. He'll break down his program's performance in the fall, how he got started coaching high school and club, and how he relates to his players. And when we return from break, we'll be joined by Base's Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Baer and Tom Talasek to speak about the final stretch of the season, who has stepped up for them this season, and preview their next game against Mayer. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Gettles High Desert Mechanical. I'm joined now by two familiar faces to the program. They are Base's Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Baer and Tom Talasek. Coaches, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
The last time we talked, we were just getting ready for the start of winter break. It was about December 10th, so early in the season. You guys had just gotten done with a tournament in Williams. You were looking to get your leading scorer back, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But to bring everybody up to speed, the Yetis are currently 8-4 overall, 6-4 in the region, and currently carry a number 15 rank in the state. I'm sure that's changed by now. But guys, as we enter the final stretch of the regular season, what is the focus going forward?
Right now, without our leading scorer, the focus is on the other guys stepping up and contributing, some of the kids developing for next year, because we're senior laden, but we have like 5 guys that are on the varsity team this year that are going to be major contributors next year. So now's a good time for them. They don't have to defer anymore. They can just go play now that Marcus is back out. So seeing them develop, and the JV guys getting some time going forward with Tom's season with them.
Yeah, we'll talk about Coach Talasek's JV team. They're absolutely rolling, but we'll mention that just a little bit. Like I mentioned, 6-4 in the region so far. Guys, what have you liked from the region this year? How's the competition been? How's the region just been looking?
It's been pretty strong. We got handled pretty easily by Mogollon on Monday night, but they're a really good team. Joseph City gave us some really competitive games that we lost earlier in the year. But even the teams at the bottom of the standings, they've got players that are talented.
Coach Talasek, what about you? Have you seen anything that's really jumped out at you for the region?
Yeah, I think I'd say the same things. Plus, seems like below Mogollon, the second, third, and fourth place teams are more on the same level than they were in previous years.
Now, the last time that we talked, you guys were looking to get back your leading scorer, senior Marcus Dufek. But unfortunately, Marcus, from what you guys have said, is unfortunately injured again. He did return for a few games, which is great for you guys. I just want to ask, who's really been stepping up in his absence? If you look at the stat sheet, he's still the leading scorer, but I know a lot of guys have been really stepping up since he's been out and back and out again. So I want to ask, who are some of those guys that have really been coming up for you guys?
As far as the scoring goes, Jack Ingersoller, who's a sophomore, has really picked up the slack for Marcus. He had some shooting struggles earlier in the year, but he's gotten over those the last couple of games, and his three-point shot has been on the last couple. Evan Hofstadter's our junior point guard. He's been kind of holding the offense together, facilitating. He's picked up his scoring now that Marcus is out, and he's playing great defensively. His last 3 games, he had 7, 8, and 9 steals. So he's getting after it defensively. And then as far as defense goes, speaking of that, Brady Spinty had 16 rebounds the other day and like 12 against Mogollon. So he stepped it up and kind of holding the defense together.
That's interesting. You mentioned defensive rebounding. Last time we spoke, those were areas that you guys wanted to improve in. So it's nice to see that those areas have definitely been improved. Obviously, you're getting some great play from your sophomore and junior guards and forwards. You mentioned Jake and I believe his brother, right?
Jack is the sophomore, and then Evan's a junior. His brother Brian is a senior this year.
Gotcha.
A senior forward.
I want to ask guys, obviously we're kind of past the midseason. So Coach Bayer, I want to ask you, obviously we had chatted before we went into the winter break. We've already started a brand new year essentially. So I want to ask Coach, midseason adjustments, how do you approach them? You mentioned Jake struggled a little bit with his shooting to start the season, but you've made some adjustments. He looks a little bit better. I mean, how do you sort of approach those midseason adjustments just with the team going forward?
Well, I did constant conversations with Tom about what kind of things we need to tweak, talking to the kids themselves. Hey, what do you guys like about what we're doing? What do you guys not like so much? Where can we have like this kind of middle ground? Which they want to just run. Like I said, the first time we were on, they just want to run nonstop. And I'm trying to rein them in a little bit. And so we're still finding that middle ground, but I think what we've come up with has worked pretty well lately. So
I want to ask too, Coach, more specifically about the shooting situation. I mean, how do you kind of adjust a kid's shot? I mean, are you looking at it from a maybe a form or maybe just a shot opportunity sort of idea? How do you kind of adjust a shooter mid-season?
A lot of it's mental.
Okay.
That I feel like an amateur psychiatrist some days. That I have to talk them. I have to remind them that they're good. That like I watch them in practice every day, and I watch them splash ridiculous shot after ridiculous shot, and then sometimes they freeze though in the game, and I have to remind, or they get a little hesitant, and I just have to remind them, you guys are good. Yeah. Trust in that, and your shot will fall. I mean, Jack's shot is beautiful. He just needs to trust that it's going to go in. I mean, he's a sophomore, so he's going to miss some, but a lot of it, yeah, just that like mental, get them to believe in themselves.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we stress is that we tell them that nobody's going to yell at you for missing a good shot.
Yeah.
If you've got a good shot, take it. If you miss it, then we need to go get the rebound. And so we try to build them up and keep them from getting down if they get in a little bit of a slump, because they can slump and then go on a streak in the same game.
Yep.
Yeah, very much so. I like that approach of obviously nobody wants to see somebody chuck up an unnecessary 3-pointer or try to take a shot at the basket that's just completely unnecessary. So I think it's really, really important, like you said, with your approach to just kind of take the situation as it is. If it was a good shot and it didn't go in, it is what it is. If it was a bad shot and it went in, I don't know what to tell you on that one, Coach, but it's a great approach to sort of look at it as situation by situation, as opposed to just going, oh, why did you shoot that 3? And it's like, well, the shot clock was going down. There's a lot of situations. There's a lot of things to consider.
Sure.
Again, we were speaking with Bases Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Bayer and Tom Talasek. Like I mentioned, the Yetis are 8-4 overall, 6-4 in the region, currently carrying a number 15 rank in the state in 1A. Gentlemen, like I mentioned, the last time we spoke, you guys wanted to focus on defense and rebounding. It sounds like those improvements have been made.
Yeah, for the most part, the occasional lapse because they're high school kids, but then we talk about it at halftime, and then they come out in the second half and they fix it. I like the effort. I think we've had one half this year that we didn't play with effort, and it cost us a game. And ever since then, they realized that they have to be on it the whole time. They have to get after it defensively. And so even like the Mogollon game the other day, we were down 25 points. They fought back. They cut it to like 14 in the fourth quarter. And so the effort's there, and they realize that if the other team doesn't score, they can't win. So
I want to ask Coach Bayer, do you have any kind of tips for any coaches who might be listening on how to make some adjustments on defense or rebounding? Any drills that you do, anything you focus on in practice to sort of help with defense and rebounding?
We have a 2-on-2 rebounding drill that we do. And sometimes we stretch it to 3-on-3. And they like it because it gets a little rough and it gets a little aggressive. So they get to pound on each other for a little bit. And just defensively, I just keep harping on the effort with them. That like I know that they are super athletic. A lot of them are the cross country guys. They're not going to they got the stamina. They're not going to get tired. So just get after it.
Again, also last time we spoke, I asked you guys about the identity of the team, and Coach Talasek came up with aggressive and frenetic. I'm curious, is that still the identity of this team at this point in the season? And if not, what would you say is?
I think it still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. A little more under control though, still frenetic, but we've got to the point that like some games, I just want them to play as fast as they can, as quick as they can, up the pace. Sometimes like Monday, when we're maybe facing a little bit better of an opponent, rein that in a little bit. We don't have to be in as big of a hurry. Slow it down a little bit. That gives us a better chance to win.
Right. We had also talked, you mentioned it, Coach. I remember when we were talking last time, a lot of the guys were harping on you, Coach Bayer, to let them run. I know you just said that a few minutes ago. You kind of are. So it seems like you've budged on that as well. But, how do you balance sort of reining these guys in, but at the same time, allowing them to get a fast a transition bucket or maybe run down the floor for a quick 2 or a quick 3?
You go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we just emphasize that if you're going to do it fast, but under control, or what is it Wooden says?
So I always harken back to Coach Wooden, and I hit him with this all the time, that we're going to be quick, but we're not going to hurry.
Okay.
When you hurry, you're out of control. We're quick. I know our dudes are quick, but if they hurry, that's when they make mistakes.
Right.
Keep rein it in just enough so that, you got that fast break layup.
And
just take your time and make the layup.
Yeah. I think we go back to that. As long as you're taking a good shot, take the good shot. And if it's a 3 on a fast break, as long as you did just dribble down the floor full speed and jack it up sideways, it's a good shot. Okay. Maybe you made it, maybe you didn't, but that's kind of the approach we've taken all year. And I think it's worked for us.
I'm kind of on the flip with that, Coach Talasek. I'm not necessarily a huge fan of a fast break 3-pointer, especially when the basket's wide open. I was playing rec basketball here in Cottonwood, and I was playing against some local high school kids. It was during the summer, so anybody could play. And I swear, I saw about 8 or 9 kids stop from dribbling in for a layup to dribble out to the 3-point line and take a shot. Thank goodness it was pickup basketball, because if it wasn't, it really, really would have been bad. But it just speaks to the sort of style of play we're seeing here, which is very much that fast-paced European style of basketball. I accredit it more to Mike D'Antoni of the Phoenix Suns. A lot of people like to whine and complain that it's Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. But if you really look back, you can see that a few teams did have that run and gun style of European offense where it's just really quick. Your power forward and your center can pass and shoot. It's definitely fun basketball to watch, but can be very, very frenetic not frenetic, hectic, I guess is the word I'm going to use. Anyway, again, we're speaking with Bases Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Bayer and Tom Talasek. Coach Talasek, this one's directed more towards you. 8 straight games won for the Bases Flagstaff JV basketball team. First and foremost, Coach, what's your secret to this solid run here down the end of the season? And I think we'll start there.
Well, there's a couple of secrets. We've got a couple of guys that are for JV are big inside, and that helps us control the boards. But we're really deep. I can go 10 deep on the bench, and so we can press the whole game. If one kid's not hitting, then somebody else can go in, and we find a hot hand. And but it all at the end comes back to defense. We play a lot of full court defense, a lot of pressure defense, and we create a lot of turnovers, and that's worked really well for us.
Coach, when I was in high school, I played JV basketball, and we ran a different offense than what the varsity team ran. Is that sort of a similar game plan with you guys? Is it a different type of offense, or is it similar?
No, we run the same things across the board. The varsity runs a few inbound plays and a few other things that we don't run on JV, but what we do run is the same as what the varsity runs.
So, Coach Talasek, coming from the JV side, you're obviously more of the developmental coach of the two of you. Of course, Coach Bayer is the varsity coach. Coach Talasek is the assistant and head JV coach. But Coach Talasek, I want to ask, how do you approach a new basketball player, somebody who's maybe not necessarily brand new to basketball, but somebody where it's like, well, it's been a few years since I've played, or I played a little bit in elementary school. How do you approach that?
Well, we try to get them to do the things that they can do, whether they can shoot or not. And that's, I know this is a broken record, play defense and rebound. When people's shots aren't hitting, or when they're not the best, don't have the best form shooting, if they can contribute on defense and rebound, then they get playtime. Yeah. And we've got a couple of players this year that are in that category that they haven't played organized basketball at all. A couple of juniors, but they're very good at going out and being aggressive, playing good defense, getting great rebounds, getting an occasional shot, passing back out. And so that's kind of the way we approach that.
You guys got a game coming up. Again, Bases Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Bayer and Tom Talasek. Gentlemen, you guys got your next game coming up against Mayer on January 31st. You've obviously already faced the Wildcats before, beating them to start the season 59-20. Coach Bayer, Coach Talasek, what are you both expecting from the Wildcats this time around?
I've been looking at their scores on their schedule, and their games have been fairly competitive. So I expect it's going to be physical and aggressive, because those games with Mayer usually are. I think it'll be a lot closer than it was the first time, but I also think that that first game seems like so long ago, seems like 1,000 years ago that we played them. And so I think our pressure defense, our press is better than it was at the start of the year. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to seeing that and see how it translates from when we first started it in game one, when it was brand new, we've never done it before, to now seems like we've been playing for 15 years. It should be pretty good come Monday.
Well, Coach Talasek, on the JV side, you'll get a chance to take on Mayer's JV team as well. I want to ask from you, in your perspective, obviously, you being the assistant varsity coach, you're kind of seeing the guys that you're going to be seeing coming up. Are you going to be looking out at some of the guys on the Mayer JV team that you're keeping some notes on that you guys could be seeing next season or the season after?
Well, we always do that. We do that with everybody, except that, are we playing Mayer next season?
Maybe if we schedule them to Freedom, but
because our region is changing completely next year. So
Gotcha.
We are not in the same region with any of the teams we're in the region this year, but there are some of the teams that we've played historically that will continue to play as Freedom games. So,
okay.
But we still will kind of take notes on, okay, this guy from Mayer may be a problem next year.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Again, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for coming on and talking about the program, getting us caught up to speed on your program. I've got one last question for you. Looking at the rest of the schedule, obviously you guys face Mayer on January 31st. Then you've got Williams, and then finishing off with Grand Canyon before we head into the playoffs. How are you guys feeling going into this final stretch of the season? And is there anyone that you guys are looking forward to playing against again? Anyone can answer.
Oh, he wants bulletin board material. Okay, I'll say it. I want to play Williams again.
All right, cool. Very good.
We got our first win ever against them. I was 0 for 15 before we beat them the other day. Now we're not going to have Marcus, so it's going to be harder. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. And I feel pretty confident going into this last week and a half of the season.
Coach Talasek, real quick, how about you? Who are you looking forward to playing against, and how you feeling about the final stretch of the season?
I think that
Williams got it.
From the varsity and JV standpoint, I feel the same way. Williams is the team that's closest geographically to us, so it's always been a rivalry that we haven't done very well in, and so we're ready to turn that tide.
Well, gentlemen, I want to wish you the best of luck on the final stretch of the season. Best of luck in the playoffs as well. This is Basis Flagstaff boys basketball coaches Chris Bayer and Tom Talasek. Gentlemen, thank you again for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Coconino High School baseball coach Michael Sifling right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by Coconino High School baseball coach Michael Sifling. Coach Sifling, welcome on to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, we're very happy to have you, Coach. The Coconino Panthers finished their 2020 to 2021 season, or I should say the 2021 season, with a 10-7 record, a number 14 rank in the state, earning them a first-round matchup with Poston Butte. Coach, before we get into this season, can we finish off with last season? How did that playoff game go, and how did you feel about the season last year?
You know, the season last year was really a growing point for us. We had a lot of underclassmen that were first-year varsity players. So, you know, the big motto every day was compete your face off, which these kids wholeheartedly have taken grasp of. And no, it was great. You know, a lot of games lost toward the, at the end of the game, 5th, 6th inning, where we took leads in. So we knew we just needed that one piece to come in and close games out. And it could have been a totally different record other than 10-7. But real proud of that, real proud of the kids and the way they finished that season.
Now, Coach, this season you moved from assistant head coach to the head coaching role for Coconino High School. You've been with the school for 11 years. I want to ask, let's take it a step back. What got you started in coaching? What got you interested in just being a baseball coach?
So right after I graduated high school, I attended Mount San Antonio College in California, and an injury shortened that season. And I was offered a position right back at the school I just graduated from. And that really is what launched my career at Northview High School, was that opportunity that I was given at that time with that coaching staff.
Like I mentioned, it's your first year coaching this program. Are there any other coaches or programs that you look to as for inspiration, or is there a program that you look to that you go, I kind of want it to be modeled after that? Is there anybody that you've kind of leaned towards or leaned on, whether it be earlier in your coaching career or more recently?
Yeah, my mentor was Tom Quinley, who was a phenomenal coach. In fact, not to age myself, but he actually scouted me when I was 12 years old. And eventually I played for him and then ended up coaching with him. And he was an amazing man. Southern California, he's won a CIF title, just really understood the kids and the game at a whole nother level. And he recently passed away. And during his memorial, I got to visit with a lot of ex-players that we had coached and reminisced. And it just kind of really brings it back to the reason why we get into coaching, to mentor these young men and watch them grow up and become awesome parents and members of the community. So I would pretty much go back to Tom and everything that he taught and instilled in me.
Obviously, you've got a lot of experience as a head coach. You had mentioned to me, this might be a little bit of a side tangent, but you and the Los Angeles Dodgers and now Texas Rangers have a connection. And it has to do with I guess at the time he was the third base coach, now the manager at the Texas Rangers, Chris Woodard. You and he have a connection, Coach. Can we talk just kind of briefly about that? Because I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah. So Chris played all 4 years for us at Northview. And I was fortunate to coach him not only during the high school season, but during the summer ball. I remember when I was introduced to Chris, he was an 8th grader coming into Northview. And I remember teasing him about his ears, that his ears were bigger than his head. But boy, did Chris grow into those ears. And Chris was the kind of ball player that every day after practice, Coach, I need another bucket of baseballs. Coach, can I get some more cuts? Coach, can I? The things you can't teach, the intangibles, is the heart. And Chris has an incredible heart for the game. Now, as he was a senior, hitting well over 500, leading all categories in the Valley Vista League there in California, he was told by the D1 schools, you're just too small. You're too small. He ended up going to community college and got drafted by Toronto Blue Jays and played 13 years in the majors, and now is having a very successful managing and coaching career in the big leagues. But I use that story to tell my kids, don't let anybody tell you can't.
Well, of course, obviously, your story with Chris Woodard, you want to instill that into your guys of, not every opinion is the opinion that matters. Obviously, Chris was seen as somebody who was too small, didn't get as many opportunities as he should have, but he still made the most of it. Obviously, he's the manager of the Texas Rangers. So very cool. I as a Dodger fan, am a little jealous that a Dodger and you got to talk with Coach Woodard when he was with the Dodgers, which led you to talking to a few of the players, but that's okay. I'll hold off my jealousy a little bit later, Coach. You're coming into your first year, not with the program, of course, but just being the head coach of the program. So, I mean, what do you want your players to get out of playing baseball for you, Coach? What happens? How do you want them to grow from day one to the last day?
If we can teach them anything, it's how to be great human beings, right? Great people, contribute to society, great fathers, great husbands, those types of things. Not everyone's going to go on to a major league career, right?
Right.
So work real hard at teaching them character skills and just skills that are going to help them as they grow into the workforce and those types of things. And of course, some of them are going to be awesome coaches too. I mean, those are our replacements. Yeah. So it's just mentoring and modeling and encouraging and just building great men of character.
Again, we were speaking with Coconino High School baseball coach Michael Sifling. Again, the Panthers finished last season with a 10-7 record, a number 14 rank in the state. They got a first-round matchup with Boston Butte. They come into this season with a solid core of returners, graduated a good senior class, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But, Coach, how'd the offseason go? Were you able to welcome in any new freshmen? Are you guys still conducting open fields? Where are we at in terms of the offense, in terms of the offseason right now?
So the offseason was really good, a really growth moment for a lot of our sophomores that were varsity players, first-year varsity players last year. They went 21-5 during the summer league, played a lot of the same teams that we played during the season and beat them. So that gave them a lot of confidence moving forward. Once the summer ball season was over, they moved on to some travel ball teams, one of which was the Seminoles, and the other one is the Elite, is for the younger guys. And Coach Johnson, that takes the Seminoles team, took them to tournaments in Las Vegas where they competed against some really high level competition. Mm-hmm. So these guys have been seeing the best, playing against the best. And I mean, their confidence is through the roof right now. Yeah. Our off-season workouts with Coach Sweats, strength and conditioning is top notch. I mean, what he puts those kids through and how they come out on the other end is phenomenal. So they're ready. We're chomping at the bit. We've got one last little winter tournament we're going to go to next weekend that was put together by Lee Williams and mm-hmm. Kingman High School. So, I mean, these guys are we're ready. February 7th can't come quick enough.
Yeah, I bet, Coach. I bet it can't. And we're getting so close to the start of the baseball and softball season, along with the rest of the spring sports, of course. We'll have some track and field, tennis, and a lot of fun stuff. Coach, I want to ask, you mentioned taking your team to some of those summer ball some of those summer ball tournaments. What do those tournaments tell you about your team? Do they give you an idea of how the season might look against some of the tougher competition? Like you had mentioned, you played against a few teams that the guys might face. Of course, you're not going to face the Seminoles or the elite in the regular season, but I'm curious, how do those summer tournaments sort of, what indication do they give you about the season coming up?
You just kind of see that whole level of growth and maturity and the understanding of the game and picking up the speed of the game at the varsity level. Just the confidence that I'm just going to compete. I'm going to compete as hard as I can. And, just that maturity that comes with playing against that level.
Coach, like I mentioned, graduating 5 seniors last year, including standout Trevor Seaver, who I know was great on the mound and off the mound for you guys. He was a big contributor. But you do welcome back a solid group of returners. Before we get into that group of returners, Coach, obviously you've seen this senior class all 4 years. I just want to kind of just get your opinions on that senior class that just came out. And then we'll talk about the returners in just a second.
So the gentlemen that graduated have moved on to college and are doing great. I mean, they're just, what great, neat men, right? Just awesome athletes, the leadership that they brought, the stability that they brought. I mean, Trevor, we're going to miss Trevor this year. He's at UC Santa Barbara this year. We actually have his younger brother coming into the program, so we're excited about that. But, I see them in passing in town and just to see how well they've just grown up. It's just great to see them.
Yeah. Like I mentioned, you do return some solid talent, including now senior Tanner Johnson, a huge returning class of sophomores who are now juniors in Quinn Mickelson and Adrian Marquez. Those guys were big contributors. Coach, how do you plan to further develop this group? And how does this group separate themselves from the group of seniors that just came through?
It's their opportunity to step up. It's their opportunity to lead. Tanner's a 3-year varsity guy who we all look to as our leader on the program. And we talked about earlier about Chris Woodward and that too small, that frame, that body. Well, I'll tell you what, Tanner Johnson is cut from that same mold. This kid puts in the work every day. He makes plays on the field that even I sometimes just go, wow, he really just did that. But he's also the kid that makes every routine play. And his IQ of baseball is, his ceiling is so high and he understands the game at a whole nother level. He's my commander-in-chief out there on that field. He's a quiet leader and he speaks up when he needs to. But he's the guy that we're going to lean on this year. Quinn is right there in his tracks. We've got Adrian is right there again on the mound. What a bulldog, right? And we've got some other guys with Tyler Reagan. I hands down think he's got one of the best arms in the outfield in the entire region. And again, just a quiet guy that goes about his work, goes about his business. So we've got a lot of exciting players that are going to make names for themselves this year.
What about on JV, Coach? How are you guys looking with numbers at the JV and freshman level? Are there any players from the JV and freshman team that you're looking forward to bringing up this season?
Yeah, we're looking at about 3 or 4 of them right now that'll fill those spots that were vacated by our graduating seniors that are definitely going to come in and help us put their fingers in the holes from last year's graduating class. And like we had talked earlier, trying to find that guy or a couple of guys that come in, close games out. I think with this group coming through, we're going to find those two. And we got our eyes on a couple. They're going to
Again, we were speaking with Coconino High School baseball coach Michael Sifling. The Panthers are getting ready to start their season here very soon. Coach, before we let go, I thought we'd talk a little bit about the rotation, how you're going to be managing your pitching staff this year. I'm not sure what Coach Sweats' plan was, but I know that Adrian Marquez was one of the guys that really who's coming back to the rotation this year. Obviously, Trevor Seaver was another guy who pitched very well for you last season. But here in your first year as the head coach, again, Coach Sifling was the assistant coach and has been for a while. He's now the head coach this season. How are you going to approach your rotation, Coach? Are you going to go with sort of a 1-2 punch? Are you going to go with a full rotation of guys? Obviously, you're going to be getting Adrian Marquez back. I mean, just what does the rotation look like coming into the season in general?
So we're blessed. We've probably got 4 or 5 starters that are Adrian quality. So we did have a transfer in he came into the program last year, mid-80s fastball,
wow.
Great catcher, pitcher, middle infielder, right? Whatever coach dreams of. So Cole Gillespie will fill part of that pitching rotation. Connor Callahan will fill. We have some sophomores that are going to fill some holes. We're really deep in the starting pitching rotation, which is, again, a blessing. And my pitching coach is the legendary, Gus, Ed Vesley. And he's handling and managing that staff. Even now, he's got his charts out and he's doing all this stuff. So I trust him and what he puts together as far as a plan moving forward.
Well, again, Coconino High School baseball coach Michael Sifling, I want to thank you very much for coming on the program. Coach, I got one last question for you. We're getting close to the start of the season. How excited are you to get this season kicked off, your first official head coaching season with Coconino High School? And honestly, Coach, how much are you looking forward to taking on Flagstaff this year?
Can't wait. All the above. Mike Dobosh over there at Flagstaff always has a good group. They're always well coached, and it's always a great ball game, and it's fun just to be a part of. But our first competition and our first game is Buckeye. That's what we got our eyes on, and we'll be ready. It's going to be a lot of fun to coach these guys.
Well, Coach Sifling, I appreciate you coming down and taking the time to talk with me about your program. Congratulations on being named the head coach. We look forward to following you and the Panthers throughout the spring sports season. Best of luck, Coach, and best of luck against Buckeye to start off the year.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Of course. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by Northland Prep Academy boys soccer coach Eric Carrillo right here on Off the Bench. Don't go anywhere.
Starting in the late 1920s, Grandpa Gettle and his brothers laid the groundwork for what would become a family legacy. Almost 100 years and 100 patents later, Gettle's High Desert Mechanical continues to raise the bar of quality heating, cooling, and plumbing products and services in the Verde Valley.
Call Gettle's High Desert Mechanical Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing at 567-2200 or online at GettlesHDM.com, providing solutions for your comfort. Don't settle. Get Gettles.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Cottonwood Parks and Recreation and Gettle's High Desert Mechanical. I'm joined now by the Northland Prep Academy boys soccer coach, Eric Carrillo. Coach Carrillo, welcome onto the program.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate the invite.
Well, Coach, we're very, very happy to have you. First and foremost, congratulations on completing the fall soccer season. The Spartans finished the 2021 season with a 5-6 record, a number 16 rank in the state. Coach, we are now fully in the off season right now. What has the focus been, and how did you feel about this past season?
It was a very good year. I talked to a lot of coaches, and this is my third year with the program. After 3 years, you finally get to see, I guess, your program, your system come into play. So this was the first year where I got to see my team, personally, me moving the ball, playing how I want them to play. So it was very, very good year. I didn't get enough numbers, I guess, freshman year wise coming in. I lose 3 key players senior wise, but this offseason I'm looking forward to coming in, and we have, I know, 6 club players that I know of coming in, and should be a good coming season. Did lose a lot of players towards the end of the season, towards red cards and injuries, so it did affect a little bit the last 2 games, but not a bad season. Like I said, the biggest thing is me seeing them play how I want them to play and getting there.
So, Coach, I mean, in your 3rd season, like you said, things are starting to come around. Like you mentioned, you are graduating those 3 seniors. Just to mention a couple of them, Ben Young and Bryce Twidwell, 2 guys that are going to be leaving your program along with 1 other. So I just want to ask, Coach, let's talk about that senior class. You're in your 3rd year with the program this year. How have you watched those guys grow for the past 3 seasons? What have they meant to the program this season?
It's huge. I got them, sophomore year. So growing into senior year, you see them grow. Biggest thing is leadership. Those boys, they became leaders. Biggest thing is intensity. Picked up a lot from them. I got them, when they're sophomores, so they were still a little bit intimidated, a little bit, I guess, scared playing against seniors. But that picked up to the point where they were not scared of anyone. Intensity, just the passion for the game was there. When I first originally got there, I didn't think I saw it in them, but they grew a whole lot, and they grew into my system very, very well. Like I said, 2 center mids and a defender moving the ball and communicating. I loved what I saw from them. So we'll definitely be missing them next year, but hopefully the ones coming in replace them pretty solidly.
Well, Coach, obviously you're at Northland Prep Academy. You talk about kind of just having a smaller class of seniors this year. Obviously smaller school, your sample size isn't as big, but you do return a solid group of sophomores. I mean, the rest of your roster pretty much is sophomores and 1 junior. Some guys who will be returning, Caleb Harpst and Ethan McKay. How are you feeling about this group going into next season? Obviously, they've got some varsity experience now. That's going to help them go forward. So, how excited are you about this group coming back next year?
Very, very excited. Like I said, the majority is coming back. I have 1 junior who should be stepping in pretty big into his role. But yeah, the sophomores are the biggest thing right now because that's my biggest class. They'll be stepping up, and like I said, you said they have the experience now, the knowledge of what it takes to get there to compete against the biggest teams. So that experience is where I'm hoping it picks up, just like Bryce and Ben and Jordan that left. Hopefully, it takes them a big step further into their process. But I'm very excited. And like I said, I have at least 6 freshmen that I know that will be helping out those sophomores pretty well. They know each other, so. It'll be good.
So you're really coming in next season, Coach, with a kind of, in a lot of ways, a nice fresh team.
Definitely. I only had 2 freshmen this year, so I didn't have a whole lot of numbers. But yeah, my sophomore class is huge. So, like I said, hopefully they got that chemistry, we call it, playing together, talking, and moving forward from here on out.
You talk about your 3rd season coaching the program. You talk about kind of getting guys up to your playing level, getting guys playing into your system. How do you kind of progress them sort of buying in to your level of coaching? Obviously you came into the program 3 years ago, so you already had players who had played for the previous administration, or guys who had, more specifically to your 1st or 2nd season, guys who had already been with the previous coach and are now stepping into, your style of coaching and adjusting to your style of coaching. But I want to ask, how do you get guys to buy in? You come into a new program, you're obviously in season 3 now, but what do you do as a coach to get these guys to kind of, not in a way fight for you, but play up to the level you want them to play?
Biggest thing is I tell them, I don't need individuals. It's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. So I can't just have 3 or 4 players playing my system and then the rest not. So they know right off the bat for it to work, and they saw it work this year compared to, previous years. They saw it work where they need a whole team. They need everyone on the same system. If 1 or 2 players are off and not playing the exact same system, then it throws everything off. And so them, we've come a long ways in 3 years where we weren't winning much. Now we're actually winning, beating teams pretty good score-wise. They see that now. They see wow, this is working. Coach is not just telling us stuff to tell us stuff. He kind of knows what he's doing. So just getting to talk to them and letting them know, hey, I know it's my system, but if you don't work under my system, then nothing's going to work because I can't have players all over the place. And so that was the biggest thing. And they all kind of bought in and they like playing the system as far as I know right now. So worked out pretty well.
Well, Coach, it's nice to hear that things are on the up and up for your program. Like you mentioned, you took over about 3 years ago. You've got on the counter side, you've got a phenomenal girls program at Northland Prep Academy that is really, really playing well under Coach Michael Blair. I'm just curious, did you get a chance to speak with Coach Blair at all? Do you guys have any kind of collaborative activities or exercises or anything that you guys do to start the season? Did he help you at all in your first year? What sort of relationship do you have with Coach Blair?
Oh, absolutely. I leaned on him a lot, especially my first year, getting in, getting my feet wet. Didn't know what to expect. But, yeah, I learned a lot from him. Yes, we do stuff together. We'll scrimmage each other. We'll take ideas from each other. I ask him what works for him, what works for him. And so I lean a lot on them. I ask questions. Sometimes, I'm a young coach, so I'm still learning. I'm still getting ideas from other coaches, but we rely on each other a lot. He'll watch my games. He'll kind of give me feedback, different eyes watching the game from different views. So we talk a lot about both sports, both girls and boys. And so far, so good. We haven't had any problems. It's been working out. I love it. I love Michael Blair and Keith Hovis. Yeah,
Coach Blair and Coach Hovis are two fantastic coaches. Both have been on the program before. Very, very nice coaches, great coaches as well. It's great to hear that you guys are working together. I mean, really two programs that yours more going up into up and coming sort of category. And his, of course, is one of the best 2A programs in the entire state of Arizona. You could argue maybe the best program, but it's great to see that you guys working together and sort of that collaborative take on both your programs. Northland Prep Academy, small school. We talked about it. Obviously you guys have a lot of challenges, so it's cool. You get an opportunity to sort of lean on him when you step in. It's like you said, you're a new coach. I mean, you played 4 years of soccer at Coconino High School. Then you went over to Northern Arizona University. When you decided to stop playing, Coach, I mean, was coaching in the game plan? Was that going to be your next step, was to, continue to at the high school level?
Definitely not. Definitely. I played 4 years of varsity soccer. I had offers to play, but I did tear my meniscus pretty bad sophomore year. Came back, started playing junior year, played all of junior year, went to state. Senior year, tore my meniscus twice. So I've had a total of 3 knee surgeries on both knees. And so at the end of there, that's where I lost a lot of, offers. I didn't go out to try out, didn't go talk to coaches. So at that point, I had to make a decision whether I was going to keep playing soccer or focus on school and, go a different route. At the beginning, I wasn't even going to go coaching. At the beginning, I did coaching simply fact of just kind of extra money at the beginning. Yeah. I ended up loving it. I love seeing kids develop, growing programs, growing kids, seeing them mature and, take off. So yeah, at the beginning, like I said, no, it was not part of the plan, nowhere near the plan. I wanted to play, but things happen. That's what I tell the kids. Sports are temporary there, at least of now. School will always be there. For me, I chose school, and then I still love the sport. I'm very passionate about the sport, so that's why I decided to do coaching and, still be involved.
And what's great too is obviously, you coaching boys soccer keeps you around the sport, keeps you in the sport, keeps you helping out with these local kids and some kids who might be in the same situation you were in. So that's great that you've embraced this role as a head coach. Again, this is Northland Prep Academy boys soccer coach Eric Carrillo. The Spartan season wrapped up in the fall, but the club soccer season is still going forward. And Coach Carrillo is also a coach at Flagstaff Soccer Club United, I believe is the full title for the club team. We've talked with Coach Mike Jenkins, who's the Flagstaff High School boys soccer coach. He also participates with the club as well. But getting back to your coaching origins, Coach, you obviously talk about kind of relying on Coach Blair early on when you got to Northland Prep Academy, but I want to take it a step further. I mean, are there any programs that you look to, any other coaches, whether they be in Arizona or outside of the state, that you look to and go, this is who I want to model my coaching style and my program off of?
So when I played, I had a coach named Mark Elwine. He coached me for 4 years. And he was my club coach. But just the way, looking back at it now, he's my biggest, role model, the biggest person I kind of want to base my soccer teams or soccer coaching around. Right. I still reach out to him. I talk to him and, I get feedback from him. I get training sessions from him. So I would say he's the biggest, I guess, influencer for me as what I look to do in coaching style, what I look to do forward. Coaching programs, man, there's a lot. I've talked to a lot of different coaches, down in the Valley. I try to take the best I can or what I think will work for me from every coach, every program, and try to put it into my system. And then try not, we have different kids, different caliber kids. So I have to take whatever works for my kids and whatever doesn't. So programs wise, too many to name. But coach wise, Mark Elwin would probably be my top influencer.
Well, like I mentioned, while participating with the Flagstaff Soccer Club United, you also get a chance to sort of not co-coach, but work alongside a lot of the coaches you see in Northern Arizona. Like I mentioned, Coach Jenkins, who is the Flagstaff boys soccer coach, helps out with the club team as well. Have you gotten a chance to collaborate with any other coaches, whether it be at Basis Flagstaff or maybe some of the girl coaches over at Flagstaff or Coconino, same with the Coconino boys soccer program? While you're working with the club team, have you gotten a chance to collaborate at all with any of those other coaches?
So I'm currently coaching Coconino High School. This is my first year with them. But I since I've started taking different jobs at coaching, I've talked to a lot to one being Coach Savannah over at the girls soccer team now, Flag High, Coach Jose over at Flag High. And then, of course, I stick around and talk to all the, Coach Isaiah from Coconino girls soccer. Like I said, my biggest thing is I'm still a young coach. I want to learn. I want to, expand my knowledge, see what works for different coaches, see what doesn't work, see what worked for me. So I'm busy on the phone. I'm busy talking in person all the time. The most I can. Coach Scott over at Flagstaff Soccer Club, I lean out to him a lot. But whoever I can talk to coaches wise, I know over in the Valley, I talk to a lot of the Phoenix Rising coaches. I'm social. I love talking to a lot of different coaches, see what they do, see what doesn't work for them, how their program runs. That way I can get, like I said, the most knowledge, pick and choose from each brain and take it from there.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic, Coach. Networking is a lost art in the business world, and it really follows most most professions in terms of networking. I mean, like you said, as a coach, you want to talk to other coaches and get as much information as you can, much like I do as well with a broadcaster, collaborating with other broadcasters and listening to different styles and watching how other people do things. So I totally get that. I am curious, though, do you see a lot more year-round players or a lot more of those club players coming out for high school sports, or I should say more specifically high school soccer? Or are you still getting mostly, not first times, but guys who, played rec league and now they're just kind of moving on with their age with soccer?
Definitely both, a little bit of both, depending on the school. I definitely am seeing more players out in club now.
Okay.
Maybe because, they see familiar faces. So, they're going to go and try out for club. But my biggest thing I tell at least my boys is the longer you guys play together, the most, if you guys can keep a team together all year round, you guys can learn from each other, talk to each other more. And so it'll just, grow into your program chemistry, we call it. When I played this, what I use an example, when I played, my club team and my high school team were pretty much similar. We always kind of stuck around, and, it does make a difference. If you're playing club together and you transfer over to high school together, you have the same style of play, you have the same people, you know who to talk to, you know how people play. And so,
right.
I definitely am seeing a lot more players going to club now and playing club. You still get, a handful of non-club players who are just passionate and will go play high school. And then you still get those first year players. I had one in NPA who, very, very athletic, but surprised me. Did amazing, score some goals, for never, ever touching a ball. And that's what I tell them. As a coach, I'll give you the tools. Now it's up to you if you want to use them and, grow with them. So,
yeah. Well, I want to ask as well, obviously there's a little bit of a benefit to playing club soccer. You're playing the sport all year round. You're never really out of soccer shape. Same goes for baseball or a few other sports that are year round. But I want to ask, do you see any benefit coaching club as a coach? Has it given you a different perspective on the game, a different way to handle players? Do you feel there's any benefit for you coaching club soccer in general?
Yeah, probably. The biggest thing it's not going to say I don't like is high school is way faster and more like, I guess, physical.
Okay.
Then club soccer, biggest thing is too, if you have freshmen playing up on varsity, they're playing 3 years up. Whereas in club, they're playing the same age. So I guess in club, the only benefit would be like if you get them back from high school, they kind of grow a little bit. They're not, I guess, as scared to body up same year old players. But the pace of soccer does drop a little bit. The speed of play drops a little bit. So players do have to adjust, going up in speed and then dropping in speed. So it could be both, pros and cons to both. But
well, Coach, I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about not only your Northland Prep Academy Spartans, but also, of course, club soccer. The club soccer season is year-round, and Northland Prep Academy will be getting ready for soccer season when we start in August. But Coach Carrillo, thank you again very much for coming on the program. Once again, this is Northland Prep Academy boys soccer coach Eric Carrillo. Sir, I thank you again for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, Coach. That's going to do it for this week's episode of Off the Bench. I'm your host, Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you next time.